In October 2025, Visa published a number that almost no one outside the payments industry processed correctly. AI traffic to American retail websites had grown by 4,700% in 12 months. Not 47%, not 470%, 4,700%. That number is not a forecast. It is not a projection. It is what already happened, measured by Adobe Analytics, confirmed by Visa, published in a press release that landed and then disappeared into the news cycle the same week Congress was arguing about something else. And buried inside that statistic is the single biggest commercial transition since the launch of the smartphone. Within a year, machines are going to start buying things from other machines at scale in volumes that current payment infrastructure was not built to handle. The companies that figure out how to be the bank for those machines will be among the most valuable businesses of the next decade. The companies that don't will be like Blockbuster watching Netflix mail the first DVDs. This is the story of that war, the competitors, the protocols, the trillion-dollar question that has not yet been answered. And by the end, why the fight is being waged so quietly that most people watching their portfolios in 2026 have no idea it is happening. I'm the calm analyst, and on this channel, we don't trade on hype, and we don't make predictions about the price of any asset. What we do is read the actual filings, the actual press releases, the actual protocol documentation, and then explain what the people building the system are actually building. Today's briefing covers 4 protocols, 3 companies, 1 consensus, and 1 fight that will determine who collects a fee every time an AI agent makes a purchase for the next 20 years. Let's start with the scale, because the scale is the part that breaks people's intuition. Visa announced that AI-driven traffic to retail websites in the United States surged over 4,700% in the past year, and 85% of shoppers who have used AI to shop say it improved their shopping experience. Visa predicts that millions of consumers will use AI agents to complete purchases by the 2026 holiday season. Consulting firm Edgar Dunn projected in a May report that the value of AI-driven commerce could jump to $1.7 trillion by 2030 from $136 billion this year. PayPal CEO Alex Chriss said in July that agentic commerce will drive the biggest transformation since the advent of e-commerce, with 25% of online sales from AI agents by 2030. And Bain estimates that the U.S. agentic commerce market alone could reach $300 to $500 billion by 2030, making up roughly 15% to 25% of overall e-commerce. Read those forecasts side by side. PayPal says 25% of online sales. Bain says 15 to 25% of U.S. e-commerce. Edgar Dunn says $1.7 trillion globally. These are not crypto projections from anonymous Twitter accounts. These are the operating assumptions of the companies that process the world's payments today. They have looked at their own data, they have seen what is coming, and they have started building. Visa plus 3. Now here is the question that breaks the existing payment stack. When an AI agent buys something, who exactly is the buyer? Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, and PayPal all spent the last 40 years building infrastructure on the assumption that on the other end of every transaction, there is a human. A human with a credit card, a human who clicks a button, a human who can be sent to a CAPTCHA when the system isn't sure. That assumption is now obsolete. Every fraud detection system ever built was designed to flag automated traffic as suspicious. Every checkout flow was designed for human input. Every chargeback dispute system assumed a human could be contacted to confirm the transaction. None of that was designed for a world where ChatGPT logs into a merchant on your behalf, picks the product, fills the cart, and submits the payment without you ever touching the screen. This is the structural problem. And starting in September 2025, the companies that own the existing rails started moving fast to make sure the new rails ran through them rather than around them. The first move came on September 29, 2025, when Stripe and OpenAI launched what they call the Agentic Commerce Protocol, ACP. Stripe is powering OpenAI's newly launched commerce experience, instant checkout in ChatGPT. ChatGPT users in the US can now buy from US Etsy sellers and, coming soon, from over 1 million Shopify merchants, such as Glossier, Vuori, Spanx, and Skims, directly in chat. The mechanism behind it is something called a shared payment token, a new payment primitive that lets applications like ChatGPT initiate a payment without exposing the buyer's payment credentials. Translate that out of engineering language. When you tell ChatGPT to buy something, ChatGPT doesn't get your credit card. It gets a one-time token scoped to that specific merchant, capped at that specific amount, and useless for anything else. The merchant gets paid. Stripe handles the verification, the token expires. More than 700 million people turn to ChatGPT each week for help with everyday tasks. ACP is open source under Apache 2.0, and OpenAI was the first AI platform to implement it. 2 weeks earlier, Google had launched a competing protocol. The new Agentic Commerce Protocol announced Monday comes 2 weeks after Google debuted a competing agentic AI protocol, with the companies racing to provide payments infrastructure to enable a new era of commerce where automated bots select and purchase items online within shoppers' pre-approved parameters. The race had begun. Stripe plus 3. Then on October 14th, 2025, Visa moved. Visa unveiled Trusted Agent Protocol, establishing a foundational framework for agentic commerce that enables secure communication between AI agents and merchants. The protocol was developed in collaboration with Cloudflare. Trusted Agent Protocol is available today in the Visa Developer Center and GitHub. The same day, MasterCard announced its Agent Pay Merchant Acceptance Framework. The two largest card networks on the planet, both launching agent payment infrastructure on the same day. That is not a coincidence. That is two boards of directors looking at the same set of numbers and concluding that whoever is late to this market loses it. In developing the protocol, Visa received insightful feedback from other early partners, including Adyen, Ant International, Checkout.com, Coinbase, CyberSource, Elevon, Fiserv, Microsoft, Nuvei, Shopify, Stripe, and WorldPay. Read that partner list. Coinbase, Stripe, Microsoft, Shopify. The competing protocols are not actually walled off from each other. They are a coalition pretending to compete because each company wants to be the gateway, but the underlying interoperability is being negotiated in the background. Visa plus 2. 2 months later, on December 18th, 2025, Visa published an update that confirmed the experiment phase was over. Hundreds of secure, agent-initiated transactions had been successfully completed in collaboration with partners across the ecosystem. Rubail Bir-Wadkar, SVP of Visa, said this holiday season marks the end of an era. In 2026, AI agents won't just assist your shopping, they will complete your purchases. Visa is working with more than 100 partners around the world across the commerce ecosystem. Over 30 partners are actively building within the VIC sandbox, and over 20 agents and agent enablers are integrating directly with Visa Intelligent Commerce. The senior vice president of Visa was telling the world that in 2026, machines start finishing the transaction, not assisting, finishing, Visa. Now, while Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, and OpenAI were building inside the traditional financial system, a parallel race was happening in a different lane entirely. Coinbase, the largest crypto exchange in the United States, asked a different question. What if the agent doesn't need a credit card at all? What if it pays in stable coins? Directly, over the same protocol your browser already uses to load a web page? The answer is something called X402. And once you understand it, you understand why the people building agent payments are taking it seriously, even though it sounds, at first, like a deeply technical curiosity. In May 2025, Coinbase introduced X402, an open standard that leverages the original HTTP 402 payment required status code to embed stablecoin payments directly into web interactions. Citi called this era the ChatGPT moment for payments, and A16Z labeled it the WhatsApp moment for stablecoins. Here is what it actually does. Every time your browser makes a request to a website, the server responds with a status code. 200 means success. 404 means not found. There has always been a code called 402, which means payment required. For nearly 3 decades, every major browser and server framework has recognized it, but nobody built anything meaningful on top of it. The spec literally says reserved for future use. In May 2025, Coinbase shipped that future. The way it works is that a server can say to a client, and the client can be a person, a bot, or an AI agent, pay this much in this stablecoin and you get the resource. The agent constructs a signed payment, retries the request, and the transaction settles on chain in seconds. No account, no subscription, no credit card. When an agent encounters a paywall or premium resource, it simply attaches a signed stablecoin payment, seamlessly resumes the interaction, and continues toward its goal. Coinbase plus 2. The numbers tell you whether this is actually being adopted or just talked about. As of March 2026, X402 has processed over 119 million transactions on Base and 35 million on Solana, handles roughly $600 million in annualized volume, and charges zero protocol fees. The protocol supports Base, Ethereum, Arbitrum, Polygon, and Solana, and is backed by the X402 Foundation co-governed by Coinbase and Cloudflare, the same Cloudflare that is also collaborating with Visa on Trusted Agent Protocol. The pattern repeats. The same handful of infrastructure companies are quietly positioning themselves at the intersection of every protocol, regardless of which protocol wins, because their bet is that more than one will win, and they want to be the connective tissue underneath all of them. Sherlock. Now let me give you the third leg of this, because the picture is incomplete without it. Both Visa and MasterCard claim their protocols are meant to support, and not compete with, other emerging standards in agentic commerce. Visa said it's aligning its trusted agent protocol with OpenAI's agentic commerce protocol, along with Coinbase's X402 standard. Read that sentence carefully. Visa is publicly aligning with OpenAI's protocol and with Coinbase's protocol. The card networks are not picking a winner. They are positioning themselves to take a fee regardless of which rail the agent uses, and that is the most important strategic insight in this entire story. The companies that operate the rails today have figured out that they can't kill the new protocols, so they are going to embed themselves inside the new protocols. Digital Commerce 360. So what is the actual fight then? If everyone is technically cooperating, the fight is over. Who sits in the middle? Every transaction has at least three parties: the buyer, in this case the AI agent acting on behalf of a human or another agent, the seller, in this case the merchant, and the rail, which is whoever moves the value from one to the other. Stripe wants to be the rail for agent transactions that flow through traditional banking. Visa wants to be the rail when the value moves on its network. Coinbase wants to be the rail when the agent pays in stablecoins. PayPal, MasterCard, Adyen, and WorldPay all want a piece of the same flow. And every one of them is right that this is the fight worth having, because of the simple arithmetic underneath it. PayPal CEO Alex Chriss said in July that agentic commerce will drive the biggest transformation since the advent of e-commerce, with 25% of online sales from AI agents by 2030. If 25% of $7 trillion in projected global e-commerce flows through agent rails, and if even a 30 basis point fee, the standard payments cut, is taken on each transaction, the math produces $5 to $6 billion in annual fee revenue from agent commerce alone by 2030, distributed across whoever owns the rails, and that estimate is conservative. Bank of America Global Research projected that spending on agentic AI could reach $155 billion by 2030, triple the estimates of most industry analysts. The companies positioning now are not chasing a near-term revenue line. They are placing positions on a market that will not fully exist for 3 to 5 years, in the same way that Stripe positioned for e-commerce in 2010 and Visa positioned for the credit card in 1958. Payments dive fortune. Now let me identify where the structural risks are, because no analysis is complete that only walks through the bullish case. The first risk is regulatory. AI agents transacting on behalf of consumers raise legal questions that have not been answered. While the potential of ACP is enormous, questions remain about fraud prevention, liability, and user trust. The ability for AI systems to initiate purchases raises regulatory considerations that could reshape consumer protection standards. If an agent buys the wrong product, who is liable? The user who instructed it, the AI company that built it, the merchant who accepted the order, the payment processor that moved the money? American consumer protection law was not written with this in mind. European consumer protection law was definitely not written with this in mind. The regulatory framework is going to have to catch up. And historically, when regulation catches up to financial infrastructure, it does so in ways that meaningfully reshape margins. Rockbird Media. The second risk is fraud. Visa explicitly framed the launch of Trusted Agent Protocol as a defense against bad bots impersonating good agents. The same infrastructure that lets a legitimate ChatGPT agent buy a sweater for you can be hijacked to let a malicious script drain your account. The companies building these protocols know this, which is why so much of the protocol design is about cryptographic identity and verification. But the cat-and-mouse history of payment fraud suggests that the first major agent fraud incident is a question of when, not whether. And the companies that have not built sufficient defenses by then will pay for it in trust, in regulation, and in market share. The third risk is consolidation. Right now, the picture looks competitive. ACP, X402, Trusted Agent Protocol, MasterCard's Agent Pay Framework, all coexisting. But payment networks have a strong tendency to converge over time. Email is built on a protocol nobody owns, but most email runs through three companies. The web is built on protocols nobody owns, but most web traffic runs through a handful of providers. There is a real possibility that the agent payment landscape ends up with two or three winners taking 80% of the volume, in which case the market positions being established right now are even more valuable than the current valuations suggest. There is also a possibility that interoperability holds, which would be better for consumers, but would limit the upside for any single provider. So here is what to actually watch over the next 18 months. Three signals that will tell you whether the agent commerce thesis is unfolding the way the Rails companies think it is, or whether it stalls. First, watch holiday 2026 transaction data. Visa publicly committed to mainstream adoption by the 2026 holiday season. If the actual numbers, agent-initiated purchases as a share of total e-commerce on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, come in at the levels Visa is projecting, the timeline accelerates. If they come in below expectations, the timeline pushes out by a year or two, but the direction does not change. Second, watch which protocol gets the deepest integration with the major AI companies. Right now, OpenAI is the anchor partner for Stripe's ACP. If Anthropic, Google, and Microsoft each pick different protocol partners, the market fragments. If they converge on one or two, the winners get clearer fast. Third, watch the stablecoin yield fight in Washington. The Clarity Act we covered last week, if it passes, gives stablecoin-based payment rails like X402 a clearer regulatory foundation. If it fails or stalls into 2027, X402 still works technically, but operates under regulatory uncertainty that limits the speed at which large enterprises will integrate it. The honest analytical bottom line is this. There is a transition happening in commercial infrastructure that is roughly the size of the e-commerce transition of the late 1990s, and it is happening on a faster timeline because the underlying technology, large language models, programmable payments, web protocols, is already deployed and only needs to be wired together. The companies positioning themselves now are not betting on whether agent commerce happens. They are betting on which protocols, which standards, and which rails win. And they are betting tens of billions of dollars in market capitalization on the answer. You are watching in real time the construction of the financial nervous system for a layer of the economy that will be operated not by humans, but by software running on behalf of humans. The buying decisions you used to make by clicking a button are going to become buying decisions made by an agent following an instruction you gave once, 3 weeks ago, while you were thinking about something else. And every time that agent moves money, somebody collects a fee, somebody resolves a dispute, somebody verifies the identity, somebody bears the fraud risk. Those somebodies are being decided right now in protocol specifications written in GitHub repositories that almost nobody is reading. The decisions made in those repositories over the next 18 months will determine the shape of digital commerce for the next 20 years. That is the analysis. No predictions, no price targets. Just the structure of a fight that most people watching their portfolios have not yet noticed is happening. If this kind of breakdown is what you came for, the bell is in the usual place. I'll be back when the holiday 2026 numbers come in, when the next protocol launches, or when the regulatory landscape changes the rules of the game, whichever comes first.